Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Goswami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada ki jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashata Shishimar Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Goswami Prabhupāda ki jai Nityal Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkṣaras Babaji Maharaj ki jai Nityal Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai Shri Rupa Gauḍīya Guru Varga ki jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu ki jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Ṭhākura ki jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gora Mandala Vaja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda ki jai Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya ki jai Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedus Tang Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Shrinvatang Svakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridantasto Hyabhadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvavadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptashtakamadittarangam Madhe Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Haribo, Pradyumna Prabhu, Mantra Murti Mataji, Rohit Radha Krishnanji, Hare Krishna, and Raseshwari Mataji, Haribo, and Yashoda Didi. Oh, it's Brahma Muhurta there. Wow. Thanks for joining so early. All right, so. Oh, yes. You know, Pradyumna Prabhu, we're making a new edition of the Five Essential Essays with a new, we're redoing it with a new article that Gurudev wrote. Anyways, I can talk about that more later. And Pradyumna Prabhu, where did you, Pradyumna Prabhu shared this in, and Indira Mataji, Dandavat Pranams for whenever you come to watch. So, Pradyumna, where do you find this? It's really cool. Pradyumna shared it in our WhatsApp group. This, what is it? Yeah. Nice summary. Okay, so let's begin. So Krishna spoke to Uddhav. Dear Uddhav, my mission here on this planet, in this universe, is complete. As I depart, you too should not remain here, as the earth would be bereft of all piety in Kali Yuga, with people addicted to sinful life. Give up all attachment. Give up all attachments. Fix your mind on me and see everything with an equal vision and renounced spirit. Hearing about the renounced spirit suggested by Krishna, Uddhav asked, how can I cultivate such detached vision, since renunciation is difficult for ordinary people who are attached to sense enjoyment? Krishna answered, an intelligent person can analyze the worldly situation by perception, common sense, and logic to rise above sense enjoyment. By inculcating certain principles and avoiding certain activities, one can search out and ultimately attain me, the Supreme Lord. Therein lies the glory of human life. King Yadu had once seen a young Avadut Brahman, whose name was Lord Dattatreya. He was from Avanti, right? Who appeared learned, and he was wandering about fearlessly. Yadu learnt that the Brahman had taken shelter of 24 gurus. So, so Dattatreya, he's explaining the 24 gurus to Yadu, and where did we, I think we ended with Pingala, right? No, we did, we went through, I think we did up to the arrowsmith, or serpent. I think we did up to the serpent, so we did 22. Let's see what they are. So first is the earth. Then there's the air. And then there's space, water, fire, the moon, the sun, the pigeon, the python, the sea, ocean, the moth, honeybee, elephant, honey thief, deer, fish, pingala, a bird of prey, that's the kurara bird, right, the hawk, child, the unmarried girl, the maiden, the arrowsmith, the serpent, and today we will read about the spider and caterpillar. Did we already read about the spider? Anyways, let's see what's, I have such a bad memory. Hare Krishna, Rajbhuvan Yadav ji. I'm just looking at what Pradyumna sent. Okay, yes. I know that devotee, what's his name? He's a sannyasi now. Yeah, he gives all these ways to be able to memorize parts of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So should we see his explanation then of Let's take a look at that. Actually, I think I have the original PDF for this also. Or actually, let's just continue reading and then I'll read from that maybe later. So, let's go to Uddhava-gīta. Okay, we read, okay, so we read about the spider already. Just as from within himself the spider manifests thread through its mouth, plays with it for some time, and then eventually withdraws it within itself, the Supreme Lord creates this universe from his own self, utilizes it for some time, and then he eventually withdraws it within his own self. Whatever a living entity concentrates his mind upon, whether out of affection, hatred, or fear, he will certainly attain in his next life. Okay, so now we come to the verse for today. That we're starting from. Yeah, I have the PDF, so I'll open it. That will be a good recap for tomorrow when we've, Kita peshaskritam dhyayan kurdyam tena praveshita yati tat satmatam rajan purva rupam asantyajan. O king, once a tiny insect was captured and kept captive in the hive of a wasp. Out of great fear, that tiny insect constantly meditated upon his captor, so that, without giving up its present body, it gradually assumes the form of a wasp. There is no doubt that whatever one thinks of at the time of death, he will attain that state of existence in his next life. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. The insect attained the same bodily features as the wasp, even without giving up its present body. This indicates that when one meditates on a particular form, he will gradually come to resemble the object of his meditation. A good example of this is Dhruva Maharaj. Generally, a devotee who meditates upon the Lord gives up his material body at the time of death and then attains a spiritual form so that materialistic persons are unable to perceive the transformation. This is enacted by the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. Sometimes it appears that the spiritual body has been given up, but such pastimes are illusory. Narad Muni has explained that when he received the spiritual body of an associate of the Lord, his material body was instantaneously relinquished, just like a flash of lightning, and its illumination. So Narad Muni has explained that when he received the spiritual body of an associate of the Lord, his material body was instantaneously relinquished, just like a flash of lightning and its illumination occur simultaneously. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya commentary by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. When a cockroach sees a bright green insect, it becomes so afraid that it begins to meditate on it and thus becomes fully absorbed in its mood. Similarly, conditioned souls can become self-realized in this very lifetime by practicing Krishna consciousness. By being established in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, they attain liberation even in the present life. Steady intelligence is the main criteria for achieving complete absorption in the object of one's meditation. Being bewildered by his knowledge of the external world, a person may see the body of a liberated person as meant for his enjoyment. Failing to understand his own position as a servant of the Lord, internal perfection is distinct from external appearances. Foolish people cannot understand this, and so they are unable to understand the intentions of perfected souls. If an ordinary person tries to understand the position of a Paramahansa Mahabhagavat with the help of his mundane perception, there is no doubt that he will pave his way to hell. In this regard, one should carefully consider the verse that begins Arche Vishnu Shiladhi, Gurushu Naramati Vaishnava Jati Buddhir. A person's assessment of a self-realized Vaishnava's external behavior becomes the cause of his inauspiciousness. That is why the Apichet Sudaracharo verse has been presented in the Bhagavad-gīta 9:30. Wait, let me reread that. A person's assessment of a self-realized Vaishnava's external behavior becomes the cause of his inauspiciousness. That's a very important point, because we aren't actually able to see the Vaishnavas. We're not able to understand the Vaishnavas' external behavior because we're seeing through our material filter. We have our own idea of what the different qualities of a Vaishnava are, but we can't actually see them in their true form, just like we can't see Krishna. See, that's why that this verse here means Arche Vishnu Shiladhi. Those who see the Archa, the Vigraha of Vishnu as just being stone, that person will pave his way to hell. That's what that verse means. And so in the same way, when we see a Vaishnav, we see their qualities as being mundane, and we have our own ideas of what those qualities are supposed to be like. And so when we do that, then we pave our way to hell. Evam gurubhya etebhya esha me shikshita mati svatmo pashikshitam buddhim shrinu me vadata prabho. O King, from these spiritual masters I have acquired great wisdom. Now, please listen to what I have learned from my own body. Sārārtha-darśinī. Now the Brahman will speak about what he learned from his own body. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Avadut Brahman says, I have provided my intelligence with many valuable lessons after seeing the activities of various spiritual masters. Now I will tell you what I have learned from my own self. Deho gurur mama. Oops, let me see. Okay. Deho gurur mama virakti viveka hetur bibhratsmat sattva nidhanam Sārārtha-darśinī tatvanyanena vimrishami yatha tathapi parakyamityavasito vicharamya sangha. The material body is also my spiritual master because it teaches me detachment. Being a product of the material nature, it always comes to a painful end. Thus, although I use my body to acquire knowledge, I always remember that it will ultimately be consumed by others. Thus, in a mood of detachment, I wander about in this world. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Avadut Brahman says, by the use of my power of discrimination, I have learned the lesson of detachment from my body, and so I also consider it to be a spiritual master. This body is born at a particular time and ultimately perishes. In this way, it has taught me detachment. The stomach is part of the body, and it can remain like a mendicant without food for 2 or 3 days. This is another lesson I have learned from my body. With the help of the senses of the body, I will cultivate devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting. A pure devotee, despite having contact with all varieties of material tastes, does not become attached to them. Although he is attached to tasting the mellows of his relationship with Lord Hari. When one chews betel nuts, his tongue remains red long after the betel nuts are spit out. By this example, one should know that engagement in sense gratification will undoubtedly produce a lasting effect within the mind. Actually, the material body does not belong to us. It will ultimately be enjoyed by someone else. If it is discarded in a lonely place, dogs and jackals will eat it. If it is buried after death, it will become the food of worms and germs. After considering all this, I have given up all attachment to my body, and I simply wander about freely. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Avadhut Brahman says, "My present diseased material condition is due to my attachment for the objects of the senses. By utilizing both my gross and subtle bodies for engagement and sense gratification, I have come under the control of time. This would not be the case if my intelligence were fixed on attaining the absolute truth. Now I will give up all attempts to enjoy the objects of the senses, so that I will no longer be materially absorbed, despite living in a material body." The proper utilization of one's intelligence is to extract the essence from life in this material world instead of becoming overwhelmed by material attachment. This is the secret of serving the Supreme Lord, which is distinct from a life of material enjoyment. Jayatmajarta pashubhrita griha Jayatmajarta pashubhrita grihapta vargan Pushnati yat priya chikirshaya vita Pushnati yat priya chikirshaya vitanvan. Anyways, Svante sakritramavaruddhadana sadeha Shristvasya bijamavasiddhati vrikshya dharma. A man who is attached to his material body accumulates money with great struggle to maintain his wife, children, property, domestic animals, servants, homes, relatives, friends, and so on. Actually, one does this all for the gratification of his own body. As a tree before dying produces the seed of a future tree, the dying body manifests the seed of one's next material body in the form of accumulated karma. Thus, assuring the continuation of one's material existence, the material body sinks down and dies. Haribol Sudevi Didi and Madhavi Didi. Sārārtha-darśinī. One may question the material one may question. The material body is the best of all spiritual masters because it teaches one detachment, leading to engagement in devotional service. Although it is temporary, one should take great care to preserve the material body which enlightens one with devotional knowledge. If one does not properly adore his material body, he must certainly incur the sin of ungratefulness. How can one remain detached from such a body? The answer is that the material body does not instruct one like a benevolent teacher. It teaches detachment by placing us in so much misery. A person remains busy expanding his family empire because he wants to experience pleasure from it. It is only due to attachment for his body that a person carefully maintains his family members. In due course of time, the body will lose all capacity for material enjoyment and then lay down and die. A person's karma creates the seed of his future life and thus forces him to continue suffering in material existence. When the seed of a tree is ripe, it falls. The same principle applies to the material body. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. A tree creates a seed that produces another tree before dying. Similarly, a conditioned soul nourishes his wife, children, pet animals, wealth, and relatives with his hard-earned money, just to give pleasure to his own gross and subtle bodies, and these acts create the seed of his future existence. After working hard in this way, a materially attached person gives up his body at death. To see the gross and subtle material bodies as identical with the soul is ignorance. Those who cannot discriminate between matter and spirit are not on the level of intelligent people who very well understand the existence of the eternal soul beyond the temporary material body. Jivaikato mumapakarshati karitarsha shishnon Shishonyatasva tvagudaram shavanam kutaschit granon yataschapaladrik kvacha karma shaktir bhavya sapatnya iva geha patim lunanti. As each wife of a householder who has many wives tries to attract her husband for her own purpose, the tongue, genitals, sense of touch, belly, ears, nose, restless eyes, and working senses attracts the embodied soul toward their respective objects of enjoyment. Sārārtha-darśinī. One should feed his body only as much as necessary to maintain it, without attachment. This is the way to serve the body as one's spiritual master. When one, due to great attachment, provides the senses with whatever they ask for, the tongue demands palatable food and engagement in gossip. Thirst demands water, and the genitals demands the association of women. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. As a landlord is attracted by his many wives to fulfill their respective self-interests, the objects of this world attract the working senses and knowledge-acquiring senses. Shrishtva purani vividhanya jayatmas shaktya vrikshan sarip sripan pashun kagadan dashukan taistaratushta hridaya purusham vidhaya brahmavalokadishanam mudamapadeva. The Supreme Lord first created, with the help of his energy, Maya Shakti, trees, insects, animals, birds, reptiles, and so on, and yet he was not satisfied. Finally, the Lord created the human body, which offers the conditioned soul sufficient intelligence to realize him, and thus he became pleased. Sārārtha-darśinī. This human form of body, which can award one liberation, was created by the Supreme Controller. Therefore, one should not misuse this body and go to hell. It is described in this verse, after creating various types of bodies, the Supreme Controller was not satisfied, and so he finally created the human body, considering it suitable for awarding the conditioned soul the opportunity to regain his association. It is stated in the Vedas that after creating the human form of body, the Supreme Lord achieved immense happiness. The Vedas state, Tabyogam anayat Tabogyam anayat ta abruvan navai no yam alam iti Tabyosham anayat ta abruvan navai non yam alam iti Tabya purusham anayat ta abruvam sukritam bata. After creating various types of bodies, the Lord called for a cow and asked, "Do you know the Supreme Lord?" She replied, "How do you talk like a cow? I don't know." "No, I cannot understand who is the Supreme Lord." Then the Lord called a horse and asked it the same question. The horse gave a similar reply. Then the Lord called for human beings and asked them the same question. They replied, "We will know you by your mercy." That's from the Aitareya Upanishad 1-2, verses 2-3. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Lord, with the help of his energy, creates the enjoyers and objects of enjoyment. He creates the enjoyers and objects of enjoyment, imbuing them with their respective propensities. However, the enjoyers, the minute conditioned spirit souls, cannot be satisfied by enjoying limited and temporary inert objects. Until the conditioned soul, who is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, realizes that the attempts to enjoy material form, taste, sound, smell, and touch without self-realization is most abominable, he will continue to suffer material miseries. However, when he realizes his spiritual identity as the eternal servant of the Lord, he crosses over the influence of Maya and accepts himself as being maintained and protected by the Lord. Such a pure devotee, being freed from false pride, never thinks of himself as the maintainer or enjoyer. Oh, this is a very special verse. Like probably this is up there with some of the most quoted verses that our acharyas, like my Gurudev would quote this all the time. And Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, yeah, this is just a very important verse. If you don't have it memorized, this is a good one to memorize. Labdva sadurlabhamidam bahusambhavante manusyamartadamanityamapi hadhira turnam yate tanapater anumrityu yavan nishreyasaya vishaya kalu sarvata syat. I remember when my Gurudev spoke on this in Badger, and I think it's 2005, and we all memorized this verse at that time. After many lifetimes in lower species, one achieves the rare human form of life. Although temporary, the human body gives one the opportunity to attain the perfection of life. One who is actually intelligent should try to attain this perfection of life as long as the body remains healthy. After all, sense gratification is available in all the other species of life, whereas Krishna consciousness can only be cultivated by a human being. Sārārtha-darśinī. Although this body is temporary, it awards eternal benefit. Therefore, one should try to attain supreme auspiciousness as long as the body is functioning properly. One should know for certain that the body is born and then dies, and then again one accepts another birth, which are all temporary. Sense enjoyment, which is available in the human form of life, is also available for hogs, dogs, and horses. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The conditioned souls are subjected to the cycle of repeated birth and death. Sometimes one becomes a demigod, sometimes a human being, sometimes an animal, and sometimes a tree, or even a stone. In this way, the eternal soul identifies himself in various ways according to the body that he receives. According to his particular type of body, a living entity is destined to enjoy a particular set of sense objects. This is also true for a human being, but the human form of life affords one the opportunity to cultivate knowledge of the absolute truth. Therefore, the human form of life is extremely desirable. Still, one cannot remain permanently in the human body. Only the human form affords one the opportunity of attaining life's ultimate goal. Therefore, while situated in a human body, one should carefully consider how to attain life's perfection and not waste his valuable time gratifying his senses to no avail. Even activities meant for the temporary welfare of human society should be avoided. One should only cultivate the devotional service of the Lord, because only this will afford him eternal benefit. One's supreme benefit is obtained when one follows in the footsteps of those who do not endeavor for material gain, because they are always engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. Duties to family, society, and one's occupation only seem prominent as long as one does not strive for his ultimate benefit by surrendering to the Lord. By the association of devotees, one awakens his eternal propensity for devotional service. Without taking shelter of the association of devotees, one must continue to suffer the threefold miseries. Even when such non-devotees strive for liberation from material miseries, they generally become impersonalist. So even when non-devotees strive for liberation from material miseries, they generally become impersonalist. Okay. Maybe tomorrow we can read my Gurudev's commentary on this verse also. I'll find it. Evam sanjata vairagyo vijnana loka atmani vicharami mahim etam mukta sango nahankrita. Having learned these lessons from my spiritual masters, I remain fixed in realization of the Supreme Lord and fully renounced and enlightened by realized spiritual knowledge. And fully renounced and enlightened by realized spiritual knowledge, I wander over the earth without mundane association or false ego. Sārārtha-darśinī. In reply to King Yadu's question, the Brahmana said, I have acquired knowledge in this way. I have become detached from sense gratification. I have realized the presence of the Supersoul by practical application of my acquired knowledge. And I have become freed from false ego, and I wander about this world, free from unnecessary association. Nahi kasmad kuror jnanam sustiram syat supushkalam brahmaitad advitiyam vai giyate bahudarshibhi. Although God is one, sages have described him in different manners. For this reason, one may not be able to gain a complete understanding of God from one ordinary spiritual master. Sārārtha-darśinī. The question may arise that since the Supreme Lord has said, Tasmar gurung prapadyeta jigyasushraya uttamam, one should take shelter of a self-realized spiritual master who knows the science of the absolute truth and inquire from him about one's ultimate welfare. Then how can one have more than one guru? Yeah, how can one have more than one guru? Shvetaketu and Bhrigu are examples of those who have had more than one guru. In this regard, the Brahman replied, It is true that I have only one initiating guru, but in the field of practical activity, I have found these 25 objects as providing very good and bad examples to take lessons from, and so I have accepted them as my shiksha gurus, or instructing spiritual masters. By observing examples of good behavior, one will be strengthened in devotional service, and in seeing negative examples, one will be forewarned and avoid danger. I have learned to become detached from 8 spiritual masters: the pigeon, fish, deer, young girl, elephant, snake, moth, and kurara bird. I have learned both renunciation of the temporary and acceptance of the eternal from 3 spiritual masters: the honeybee, the honey thief, and Pingala. I have learned how to cultivate interest in the Supreme Lord from the other spiritual masters, beginning with the earth. Acceptance of many instructing spiritual masters often helps to strengthen one's convictions. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The most correct meaning of the word Brahman is Lord Vishnu. There is no worthy song or subject for hearing other than that which glorifies Lord Vasudeva. There is nothing actually worth learning in this material world other than knowledge leading to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Cultivating knowledge in a way that is not related to the Lord can do nothing more than enhance our material enjoyment. 32. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ityuktva sayudam viprastam amantra gabiradhi. Oh God, how is this divided? I don't even know. Ityuktva sayudam vipras tam amantra gabiradhi vandita svarchito ragya yayo prito yatagatam. The Supreme Lord said, Having thus spoken to King Yadu, the wise Brahman accepted obeisances and worship from the king. Feeling satisfied within himself, he left exactly as he had come, after bidding the king farewell. Avaduta vacha shrutva purvesham nasa purvaja sarvasanga vinirmukta samachitto babhuvaha. O Uddhav, King Yadu, who is the forefather of our ancestors, became freed from all material attachment, so that his mind became fixed in tranquility after hearing these statements of the Avadut. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord Krishna said to Uddhav, after the Brahman Dattatreya had instructed King Yadu, he departed out of his own sweet will, just as he had come. Thus ends the translation of the third chapter of the Uddhava-gīta entitled Detachment from All That Is Material, with the commentaries of Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura and chapter summary and purports by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Ṭhākura. Okay, I'm just curious, how long is this chapter for? I'm wondering if, because we still have over 15, like we have more than 15 minutes to read still. And so I'm wondering if I should start the next chapter or, let's see. Chapter 4 is 8,319 words. Okay, so that's 2 days of reading. All right, so I just got an idea is maybe we could read this article by my Gurudev now. Let me just go purebhakti.com, 24 gurus. Let me see how long this article is actually. It might be too long. Okay. I'm so confused what I should do. Okay, I'm going to just read this. Well, let me check the comments really quick. Okay, nobody mentioned anything. So I'm going to read this, and we'll just read until it's time. Maybe I can finish it in 15 minutes. Okay, so this is a class that my Gurudev gave in Badger, California, June 18, 2005. We present, during my Gurudev's visits to Badger in 2005, my Gurudev gave a discourse on Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Sri Bhagavad Arka Marichi Mala, wherein Bhaktivinoda Thakur groups various essential verses from Srimad Bhagavatam according to topic, and then explains them. So my Gurudev said, yesterday I explained the following 2 verses. Tasmar Gurum Prapadeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahmanyupasamashayam. And Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shiksher Gurvatma Daivata Amayaya Anuvritta Yais Tushir Atmatma Dohari. The root and backbone of bhajan is Guru Nishta. Without strong faith in the bona fide Guru and without unconditional surrender to Sri Guru, you cannot begin your bhakti. You will never be able to do so. There are 2 kinds of Guru, Diksha Guru and Shiksha Guru. If the Diksha Guru has given all Shiksha from the beginning to end, teaching bhajan, the aim of and object of life, and all other devotional topics, be satisfied. However, if the Diksha... I don't understand that. Anyways, however, if the Diksha Guru could somehow not complete this work, then a Shiksha Guru is needed. Okay. So a Diksha Guru can act as one's Shiksha Guru, basically. However, if the Diksha Guru could somehow not complete this work, then a Shiksha Guru is needed. The Shiksha Guru should be of equal rank to Gurudev, but this is very rare. At the time of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, there is no one equal to him in ISKCON. For his disciples, therefore, there were senior godbrothers. Lord Krishna instructed Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In this regard, he cited a historical narration concerning the conversation between the great King Yadu and an Avadut named Dattatreya. The Avadut was questioned by the king, who asked how he had attained such an advanced state of spiritual consciousness. And he replied to the king's inquiry, Shanti me Guruvo Rajan Bahava Buddhipashrita Yato Buddhim Upadaya Muktotami Tanshrinu. He said, My dear king, with my intelligence I have taken shelter of many spiritual masters, having gained transcendental understanding from them. Having gained transcendental understanding from them, I now wander about the earth in a liberated condition. Please listen as I describe them to you. Dattatreya is said to be a Shaktivesh avatar. He used to travel naked without any belongings. No one knew where he was going, and even he himself did not know. Sometimes he was laughing, and sometimes weeping bitterly and rolling on the earth. His movements made him appear as though he had been captured by a ghost. As mentioned, one day Yadu Maharaj met him and asked, You appear extremely happy. I cannot understand your moods. Why are you weeping, laughing, and rolling on the ground? Yadu Maharaj is teaching us to approach a spiritual master with a submissive mood. Tadviri pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnaninas tattva-darśinā. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Go to a tattva-darshi, one who has seen the absolute truth. He knows everything. He is self-realized, and he can remove all your doubts. Offer him obeisances, surrender to him, serve and please him. Then pray to him, If I am qualified to hear and understand, please answer my question. Ask in this way, and not in a challenging mood. Yadu Maharaj did this. He asked, You are very happy, but I cannot understand your mood. Please tell me why you are traveling, why you are happy, why you are laughing and weeping. Dattatreya replied, I have many gurus. I have received so many instructions from them, and I have followed those instructions. I have 24 Shiksha Gurus. Prithvi, the earth, air, water, fire, the moon, the sun, the pigeon, the python, the ocean, the moth, the bumblebee, the elephant, the honey collector, the deer, the fish, the prostitute named Pingala, the hawk, the baby, the young unmarried girl, the arrow maker, the snake, the spider, and the wasp. Instructions are of three kinds. 1. Hearing the teachings of those who are actually sadhus, that is Guru and Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas. 2. Learning from their character. We should follow the manner in which they do bhajan, conduct their daily routine, and behave toward others. And then 3. Watching here and there, and thus learning by one's own intelligence. Dattatreya was telling about what he concluded by seeing nature. By his intelligence, he took something for his own bhajan. We should also do that. You are very fortunate that you have either taken birth in a devotee family, or somehow Krishna has given you the intelligence to hear Hari Katha. You will have to hear. What is the meaning of the word hear? Once an Avadut, not Dattatreya, came to the assembly of King Vikramaditya and challenged the king's council members. He had been carrying a human skull, and now he put it on the table and asked, Who can tell whether this person was intelligent or foolish during his lifetime? No one could answer, so he said, I have wasted my time here. Everyone here is foolish because nobody can answer. King Vikramaditya said, One of my counselors, Kalidas, is coming in a few moments. He may answer you. Please don't be angry. Kalidas soon came, and that man again asked the question. Kalidas picked up a coconut leaf straw. He put it in one ear of the skull, and it came out of the other. He then said, Oh, he was foolish. If the straw would have gone in one ear and then down towards the heart, then that would have indicated intelligence. So my Gurudev says, don't be foolish, be intelligent. Dattatreya told the king what instruction he had received from each of his 24 gurus. From the earth, Prithvi, he learned patience, tolerance, great determination, and forgiveness. You can dig anywhere on the earth, pass stool and urine anywhere on the earth, or make houses and anything you like from the earth. The earth is always tolerant. Can you be so tolerant? As I told you yesterday, even if someone is beating you and doing nonsense to you, you should be tolerant and forgiving. This is an extraordinary quality of a pure Vaishnava. If one is doing any nonsense to a Vaishnava, the Vaishnava will forgive that person. I have seen this in my Guru Parampara, and I have seen this in my Guru Parampara, and we should also be like this. Now, mountains. On the earth, there are many mountains. We should learn from those mountains how to work for the benefit of others. A mountain gives so many trees, herbs, and water, but not for itself, for others. Your life should be for others. Also, mountains live alone in lonely places, and their only association is that of sadhus. So many sadhus used to live in the Himalayas in India, and also at Govardhan, because those places are very silent and favorable for bhajan. Trees. We should also learn from the trees. You should be as tolerant as a tree. What are the qualities of a tree? His bark, roots, leaves, fruits, flowers, dry wood, and everything else is for others. Even if there is no summer rain and the tree is going to become dry, still he does not say, "Oh, give me water." In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should be like a tree. Air. What is the quality of air? The air lives for others. If there is no air, we cannot survive for even a moment. The air is always detached. It can take the bad fragrance from here and there, bad and good, and yet it is detached. We should be detached like the air. Don't be attached to anyone. Reserve your attachment for Guru, but not a bogus Guru. A bogus Guru will say, "You should marry." Nowadays, this is going on. Do not have attachment to unqualified Gurus. Be attached only to qualified Gurus, to those who can take your heart and give it to Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. The sky. The sky is everywhere, even in our hearts and bodies. Empty space is called sky. The sky is everywhere, and yet it is always detached. You should be like that. Water. The qualities of water are purity, softness, and refreshment. When you take a bath, your body feels pure and refreshed. Be like the water. Fire. Fire can burn stool, and still it maintains a good fragrance. After death, one's body is put in fire, and yet that fire always remains pure. We should be like that, always pure. Try to be pure to do bhajan. Purity can come by performance of bhajan, otherwise it will not come. No one can be pure without doing bhajan. One cannot become pure by performance of yoga or the execution of austerities. It is only possible by remembering Lord Shri Krishna and his sweet pastimes. The moon. We say that there is a first, second, and third moon, up to the full moon. It seems that there are 15 moons, but this is not true. There are not many moons. The moon is one. If you go very high in space, you'll see that the moon is always full. It is sometimes covered by another planet, sometimes by Rahu, and at other times by Ketu. So it seems there are 15 moons, but it is not so. Similarly, there is only one God, although he has many manifestations. The sun. The sun has no birth and no death, but it seems that it has taken birth. The sun illuminates everywhere, and therefore it seems that there are many various suns, but there is only one. Similarly, Paramatma, the Lord as a supersoul, is seen in various places, but he is one. The jivas, the individual souls, are so many, but Paramatma is one. The python. Don't become a python, but take instructions from him. The python remains in one place. By his fruit of karma, some animal comes nearby without any effort on his part, and he eats it. He will not go here and there in search for food. Similarly, you will always get what you deserve due to your previous karma, not more and not less than that. The python may be very hungry when nothing is there, and it may be that he can't get his food for some time, but still he will not go here and there. If any creature comes nearby, he will eat it and be satisfied. You should try to be like that. If anything is coming without much effort, and it is bound to come, accept that. As suffering comes without effort, good things also come in the same way. Your maintenance of life will come according to your previous karma. Thus, we should tolerate everything. The ocean. The ocean is always happy, and this is understood by his rolling tides. He is laughing, but at the same time, he is very grave. You should be like that. If an ant bites you, don't be overwhelmed, repeatedly exclaiming, "Oh, an ant has bitten me, an ant has bitten me." The moth. In the rainy season in India, if there is light or fire anywhere, moths at once fly into it. You should be careful. Ladies should be careful regarding men, and men should be careful regarding ladies. Don't go to the fire. Always be careful. If you go, this means your intelligence is finished and you will die. The big black honeybee. A honeybee, Madhukar, goes from flower to flower, but he only takes the essence. He does not collect more than he needs. If he collects extra, this will go to the honey collector. The honey collector is the one who comes the honey collector is the one who comes to empty the honey from the honeycombs, and he is the one who also takes that bee in his net. The honey teaches us to take just a little from each flower. This is the advice for a traveling mendicant. The bee also teaches us not to store extra in one place, otherwise our property or money will be taken away by thieves and rogues. Or by mice. I had a mouse this morning. You should not collect more than you need, because nothing can be taken by you at the time of your death. If you have $1 million in India, so many dacoits will know, and they will come to kill you. Be like a bee. Collect very little, like those doing madhukari. The elephant. I have heard that in India, some female elephants are sent to the forest where there is a large well covered with long grasses and tree branches. The female elephant lures the male elephants there, and the male, controlled by that lady, falls in the well. Then, after many days of fasting from even water, the male elephant becomes weak. At that time, the same lady elephant goes inside the well, places a chain around his neck, and takes him out. The humans then take charge of that male elephant and train him, and then he becomes a trained elephant. So men should be careful about ladies, and ladies should be careful about men. They should be careful about each other. This is not a joke. If you are not careful, you may become like a dog with no sense at all. The deer. A hunter goes to the forest and keeps a net hidden somewhere. Then, by his playing very sweet music, so many deer become attracted. The net falls, and at once all the deer are caught. Don't hear mundane talk. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once heard the sweet voice of a lady singing Geet Govinda and ran towards her. Somehow his servant Govinda told him, "O Prabhu, it is a lady singing." Mahaprabhu then said, "If you had not saved me, I would have gone to the ocean and drowned there." The fish. In catching fish, the fisherman attaches a thread with a worm or on a hook at its end to a stick, and then drops that thread in the river. Thus, by the greed of the fish's tongue, he is at once caught. Try to control your tongue. Don't be attached to good tasting foods. Be like Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī and Śrīla Raghunath Das Goswami, who never cared even for salt, what to speak of other things. So many people want rich foods, but especially sannyasis shouldn't take such foodstuffs. Take only such things like simple boiled vegetables. Otherwise, material desires will come. Be very careful. This instruction is not only for males, but for females too. The small baby. The small baby lives naked. Sometimes he laughs and sometimes weeps, and only his mother takes care of him. He is like a Paramahansa, like Nityananda Prabhu. Sometimes Nityananda Prabhu would take off his clothes and then go naked to the courtyard of Sachimaya, and Mahaprabhu would give him his chadar. Nityananda Prabhu is an avadut, And because of this, being married or not married was inconsequential. We cannot imitate the character of transcendental personalities like him. Don't criticize what others are doing. A small boy is doing so many things, but after all, he is only a small boy. Similarly, all living entities are different, and it is not for us to criticize or find fault with what Lord Krishna has arranged for them. A boy may sometimes put his toe in his mouth, and sometimes take a toy. Be like a boy. Do not be worried about what others are doing. Be carefree and oil your own machine. Let's see how much is left. 1 second, I'm just checking the comments. Oh, Haribol Braja Didi. And Dandavat Pranam, say Shri Mataji. You mentioned that Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj was in ISKCON at that time. I don't know how to answer that because, yes, of course, Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj is a pure devotee. And also, yeah, and there's also, so, but maybe from my Gurudev's perspective, he's thinking exactly like, he's seeing Srila Prabhupada like on a higher level of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj from my Gurudev's perspective, because of, but I think even my Gurudev would glorify Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj so beautifully like that, you know? So, yeah, but I don't actually have I don't have a good answer for that. Just, okay. So now, an unmarried girl. Oh, and if anybody needs to go, don't hesitate, because I know I'm going overtime right now. An unmarried girl. There was a young lady who was not yet married. One day she was in her home, and there was nothing to cook. There were a few vegetables, but no rice. Her mother and father were not at home. In the meantime, a gentleman from another village came to see if that girl who, if a gentleman came from another village came to see if that girl would be a suitable bride for his son. Because her father was not at home, she told him, "Wait a little while." There was no rice, so she went begging for rice. She was wearing many bangles, and they were making some sounds. She began thinking, if this sound is heard by him, he will know that I am very poor, and he'll know that I am begging rice when he hears the sound of the bangles. He will not select me for his son. When he knows this, that I'm very poor, he will not select me for his son. She was very intelligent. She took off all the bangles but one, and there was no longer any sound. What do we learn here? Jana Sangha Tyaga Advaita Tyaga. Be far away from those who do not accept God as a person. Jana Sangha means association of anyone other than those engaged in Krishna Bhakti. Advaita means Mayavadis. Don't associate with Mayavadis or non-devotees, even if they are your mother and father. You can serve them by other means, but don't speak Harikatha with them. Even if you have to mix with your family members, do not create a disturbance by trying to speak Harikatha to them, because they have no faith in your ideals. They always think you are their child. The unmarried girl took off most of her bangles so that her future father-in-law would not see what she was doing. Similarly, do not disturb those who have no appreciation for what you are doing, like your parents or friends who are not interested in bhakti. The arrow maker. There was an arrow maker, a blacksmith. He was so absorbed in making arrows that when a marriage party playing drums, singing, and dancing passed by, he was not aware of it. Someone told him, "A very beautiful marriage party has just passed by." He replied, "When? I didn't see it." Be absorbed like this. Don't see what is going on here and there. Be absorbed in Krishna and not in nonsense. Better to be absorbed in Nam Sankirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then you will not hear anything else. Wow, I like that one. The snake. A snake lives and travels alone, and he has no house. He lives in rat holes and is always very careful. If you are at a far distance from him, he will know by eye vibration that you are there. Similarly, always be very careful and alert for Maya. The spider. We're on the last two now. A spider produces thread from his own saliva and thus makes a web. After he has created his web, many flies and other insects become entangled in it, and he eats them. Then, when there is no further need for the web, he takes it inside himself. Similarly, God creates this world by himself through the agency of his Maya, and later on, everything enters in him. He expands his personal potency from within himself, displays the network of cosmic manifestation, utilizes it according to his purpose, and then eventually withdraws it completely within himself. And now we come to the last one. The wasp. Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, states that a grass worm confined in a hole of a wall by a wasp. Srimad Bhagavatam, canto 7 states that a grass worm confined in a hole of a wall by a wasp always thinks of the wasp in fear and enmity. Later, he becomes a wasp simply because of such remembrance. Similarly, if the conditioned souls somehow or other think of Krishna, who is in the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss, they will become free from their sins, whether thinking of him as their worshipful Lord or as an enemy. Because of constantly thinking of him, they will attain their spiritual bodies. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur concludes this part of the Bhagavat Arka Marichimala with the following quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm not going to read the Sanskrit because it's late, but my Gurudev says, all the living entities here are suffering in many ways. To cross the unlimited endless cycle of birth and death is very difficult. Those who wants to cross it very easily should hear Harikatha. There is no other way. We should hear all the sweet pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the histories in Srimad Bhagavatam, such as those of Prahlad Maharaj and others like him. Today we have finished. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosvāmī Maharaj ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimar Bhaktivedanta Swāmī Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupāda ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosvāmī Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Gaurkishoras Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki Jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nugogoriya Guru Varga ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath, Śrāda Gosvāmī Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari, Shri Gaur Parshada Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala, Gaura Mandala, Vraja Mandala, Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Sarva Avishya Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Shri Uddhava-gīta ki Jai. Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Sārārtha-darśinī or Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Gauḍīya Bhāṣya ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo, Vrindai Tulsi Devai, Priyai Keshavasacha, Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi, Sattvatāya Namo Namaha, Vansha Kalpatarubhyashta, Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, everybody. See you all tomorrow. And let's look at the coming days. Ras Yatra of Lord Baladev was the day after tomorrow, as well as the appearance day of Shyamananda Prabhu and Vamshi Vadalananda Ṭhākura. And then in 7 days is Śrīla Bhakti Kumar Santa Gosvāmī Maharaj, is appearance day, and Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj's disappearance day. And then Abhiram Thakur is in 8 days. Keshav Vrat and Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj's disappearance day is in 10 days. And also, yeah. Alright. Hare Krishna. See you all tomorrow to read about the nature of fruitive activity.